It pulls you in and doesn't let go.
Okay, hello. Welcome back to the Carousel Podcast. Second returning guest, a rare woman on the show, Tiffany Marie Brannon.
Hi, Isaac.
Brannon.
Thanks for having me. I feel honored.
So your star has grown since last time we talked.
Thank you. I'm trying.
Right?
Yeah. Thanks to you. Thanks to that great feature you wrote about me for Frontier Magazine.
Yeah, so true. That was good. Yeah, that was really fun. We went to AmFest last year, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, you know what the original title of that article was?
What?
It's The Last AmFest. And how right was I about that?
I mean,
Not
talk
for
about
reasons that I knew,
prophetic
but-
in a bad way, Isaac.
I know.
Put it back
I
in the
know.
box.
No, it's really sad. Very sad. So what was it like this year? How was AmFest this year?
Okay, there's two ways I can answer this question. The first way is the way that a friend would and be like, "Oh yeah, it was really great." And it was nice that it was really nice that genuinely we were all together, that there was a lot of people at the movement, that there were a lot of young people there, people that had never been to an AmFest before. It was really honoring of Charlie, and I liked that they stuck to his original speaker list. I thought that was great. But the TMB response is what a shit show, frankly. I'm sitting there and, Ben Shapiro does his speech, and then I'm sitting there in front of Bannon while he does his speech, and just the bombs with Tucker and Megan, and you're sitting there in the VIP and you're going, what is happening right now? Is this high school or are we the conservative party? And
Well, so tell us before you just assume everybody knows what happens. This is actually the perfect segue into this episode.
It actually is.
Yeah.
Who would have
So
thought?
tell us what happened. Tell the people what actually happened.
So people, for those of you who do not know, at America Fest this year here in Phoenix, which is where I live, put on by Turning Point USA. It's the thing they do every year. It's usually the week right before Christmas. And usually, so there's like a media row and there's speakers and there's breakout sessions. They record Charlie's podcast live. This year, because of Charlie being assassinated and because of the weird fracturing split that's going on in the conservative party between guys like Bannon, who are so solidly America first, to all at all costs, and guys like Tucker, who basically just hate Israel. And then you have, Ben Shapiro, who is basically saying F you all. So Ben came on first, and he was the first speaker the first day, or like the closing speaker of the first day, the big headliner. And he just went nuclear and dropped every kind of bomb and personally went after every single person, including Megyn Kelly, who he's friends with, who he's basically said is no longer his friend because of how they refused to condemn Tucker Carlson for going against Jews and Israel and being fairly anti-Semitic and I mean, basically called him an agent of Qatar, and essentially really held him accountable for platforming, the disgusting person that is Nick Fuentes, who is just the worst of the worst, and giving him a platform that Charlie never would have given him, which is true. I mean, I think out of all, and I like Tucker generally. I like Bannon. I like Megan. I like all these people. Again, it's weird because it's like your parents are fighting and you're like, I don't know what to do here. These are the people these are my family. How do you pick a favorite family member at this point? I mean, maybe some of you have an easier time than others doing that, but it was like everyone, and it wasn't nice. They weren't nice about it. They weren't going dancing around it, because then Tucker came next, and Tucker just responded to everything Ben had laid down and was just like, again, full explosive, like to the throat punches. And then you have Megan responding in a sit down with my other friend, Jack Posobiec. And that was like explosive because, again, love Megan. And she was like, well, I guess Ben Shapiro is no longer my friend. And then after that, you had Bannon the last day, or the second to last day, right before JD Vance on the last day. And Bannon just basically went straight after Ben Shapiro and said that he was a cancer on America and a cancer to the conservative party. And we're sitting there and you're watching, Bannon's on the screens. There's all these young kids. And to sit there as someone that loves Israel, as someone that is pro-Israel, who loves the Jewish people, who is a conservative Christian, who is as conservative as they get and as quote unquote Republican as you can get, I was so deeply offended with Bannon for saying what he said about someone like Ben Shapiro, who is so unabashedly pro-America, pro-MAG. I mean, did he always want to vote for Trump? No. Was he a DeSantis guy? Sure. Were a lot of people? Sure. Does that make him un-American? No. And all those kinds of speeches are fuel the flames to rhetoric that is blatantly anti-Semitic, that blames everything on the Jews. And what's really disturbing is that now all over like my social media, any of my friends, especially my girlfriend's social media that were on Fox News together or whatever, if we come out in support of Israel, the Jewish people, the most horrific things are posted in the comments about us getting paid $7,000 per post, about us being, juice and like little juice boxes and like these horrible women that are on the Mossad's payroll. And it's disgusting. And so that's what happened to AmFest. And the other part was that if you were on the conservative media side, if you were someone that maybe has a platform or is recognizable in any way, before that, like Isaac, remember how it was this last year in 2024, we just won the election. We were going into the inauguration. Everyone was excited. And it was this like high energy. We were all part of one team. It was cohesive. And you felt like you were a part of this club, that you guys had worked really hard together as a team and you made it. This year, frankly, it was like a bunch of us said this. We felt like we were animals on display at the zoo. And since Charlie was assassinated, it's like anyone that ever listened to his podcast bought a ticket for Christmas, and that was their Christmas present, to come look and stare and, try to interact with people that they watch on their Instagram accounts that they never otherwise would have been. Maybe they're from Nebraska or South Dakota or wherever.
That is what AmFest is. AmFest is like,
but it was to a different level. Yeah. Like, dude, it was weird. And
so there was so where did you end up in? So the battle was, and this is going to tee up the rest of the conversation. The battle is the battle that is basically defining the right now, which is, the kind of traditional big C conservatives for whom Ben Shapiro has kind of inherited the mainstream-ish, who are very free market, all the typical conservative shit. Personal responsibility, free market economics, traditional values, and a part of that is supporting Israel, right? That's always been a sort of right-wing thing, at least a right-wing American thing, certainly, in the old neocon era. And of course, Ben Shapiro happens to be a huge fucking Jew and Zionist himself. So it's like it's not like Rush Limbaugh saying it, right? Because he's got a much more personal interest in that. On the other hand, you have the Groyper movement, which, if you look at the New York Times, the Groyper movement, all the New York Times wants to do, and here's Vivek's piece, which we're going to talk about in a second. But if you scroll down, you just have histrionics from the New York Times crowd. The Groyperification of the GOP. It's deeper than Nick Fuentes. They're hammering on the Groypers all day long because they want to scare their voters into thinking that the new right, Republicans, now they're all Nazis because they're all Groypers. And Groypers, what do Groypers believe? We all saw Fuentes on whatever's Piers Morgan, very incel, women shouldn't vote.
He's gay. The guy,
he watched
he got caught streaming himself watching gay porn and blamed it on the IDF.
Well, I think he probably does jerk off to gay porn. Does that make him gay? I don't know if that makes him gay, but whatever.
But I mean, he definitely hates women. The things he says about
Yes,
women.
absolutely hates women. And you know, but far beyond that, forget the woman question for a moment. Really, the core of Fuentes and the thing that I think is appealing about what he says is America first, right? America first, fuck any other country, whether it's Israel or anything else. Why are we putting the interests of another country before the interests of Americans? Which everybody on all sides can agree with, right? I mean, even Ben Shapiro has to say, yeah, yes, obviously,
and this is
we shouldn't be doing that.
My friend Kurt Bills, who's the director of the American Conservative magazine, I love him. He's great. We disagree on some stuff, but this is something that, I mean, he's very close to Brannon, and he agrees that, you know, with that mentality that it's kind of like, fuck everybody else, America first. And this is where I split and I go to the direction of Ben, because I do think that that is a long-term failure of a plan.
What's a long-term failure of a plan? Sorry, what is?
Being anti-Israel, trying like American first at all costs.
But hold on, but wait a second. I'm sure you agree that the interests of Israel should not become before the interests of America, right?
No,
you certainly agree with that, right? Everybody agrees. Nobody doesn't agree with that. I mean, I think the question that the Groypers would like to put to Ben is, okay, do finger on the button, Israel or America, what's it going to be? Right?
Yeah.
Ben would say America. If he was asked that question, he was forced to answer it, he would say America. Deep down, though, I think it's Israel for him. If I really am being honest, I think that he would choose Israel.
Really?
But again, yeah, I think he would. But whatever. Like, again, that's not me saying Ben Shapiro is horrible. I'm just saying I think that he would choose Israel, probably.
There's things about, I mean, he's a California guy. I don't know. He really loves it.
Maybe I'm wrong. I don't really know Ben Shapiro that well. So it's very possible that I could be wrong about that. And maybe he would choose America. You know, that's then great. In any case, rhetorically speaking, every person on earth, every person in America agrees that the interests of Israel should not come before the interests of America. Correct. No one thinks that. Correct. Besides, I mean, obviously, hardcore Jews in America, many of them do think that. You know, I know many.
But that's no different than the hardcore Muslims wanting to, you know, basically make us Middle East. Like, it's no different.
Absolutely. Or, you know, I mean, you could say that there's all kinds of groups that are
India,
like this. I mean,
China, Somalia.
Yeah, all of these other groups. I mean, also, anyway, look, okay, forget all of this. This is the dichotomy between the tear that's happening in the middle of the right wing right now. Now, I actually don't think there's really that much disagreement. I think that this Israel issue is a huge fucking problem from all sides. But the bigger upshot that actually is a problem, and that actually is a question that, look, the Israel question is actually easy to answer. It's Israel should come behind America, but Israel has a long relationship with America. There's huge strategic advantages to being there. And the whole global order, the world order, is kind of balanced on this relationship between Israel and America. And, you know, America's basically world police, right? And Israel's kind of a part of that. Whether or not that's good, whatever. That's just
the way it is.
That's the way it is. Exactly. Now, the deeper question, though, is for America itself. The Groypers have this blood and soil belief, which is that to be American, this is where the heritage American idea comes in. There's such thing as being more American than somebody else.
Right.
And if you are a white person in America, a Groyper would say you're more American than an Indian person, right?
Right.
I think most Groypers would also simultaneously agree that if you're a black American, you're equally as American because they've been here from the very beginning, right? I mean, you can't tell an African American,
or at least 75%.
You're not American. That would be insane.
3/4 that.
Right? Yeah. You're 3/4 American. Yeah. No, but like you can't really. No, I don't think any Groyper would make the argument that like a descendant of slaves is less American.
Nick Fuentes might, but
I don't think Fuentes would make that. I think, but Fuentes might say, and I've been told this, that Jews are not Americans, right? That Jews cannot be Americans because actually our loyalty, the Jewish loyalty, is actually to another nation, right?
Yeah, genetically. He thinks you're genetically.
Or genetically, which is total fucking bullshit. And I actually slapped a guy once who said that to me in person because, my fucking family founded the country on the other side. And just because they married a Jew like last generation, I'm not American. You're not going to fucking tell me that.
Exactly.
And that nobody believes that. No person actually, that descendant line from the Mayflower, they had a baby with a Jew. Now you suddenly are not American anymore. Like if I actually pledged allegiance to Israel over America, fine. Then you're right. Fuck me. I shouldn't be American. I agree with that. But I'm not that. I am truly loyal to America, way beyond Israel, far beyond Israel. In any case, this is still very abstract. The real question is that I think is tough to answer, and this is what Vivek is talking about. This is what I think the modern right really has to tangle with. Is there such thing as being more American than somebody else? Is there a certain whiteness or blackness in being American? And somebody who comes here and they're Vivek and they've been here for 5 fucking seconds, they are completely not American until they sign a piece of paper. Are they American? Are they less American than a heritage American? What is your response to that?
This split, and he wrote this New York Times
article where he's writing about this. Yes,
the split that he identifies, where the two different ideologies that he identifies are, you either believe that it's an it's either American identity or American ideals. All right. So saying that like the heritage concept is like you have an American identity, like you were on the Mayflower, your great whatever was on the Mayflower. You were pilgrims. You came to the Wild West as cowboys. You were in the gold rush in 49 or whatever. Or you have American ideals and principles, like everyone that he loves on those H-1B visas, who wants to come to the land of freedom, the land of milk and honey and opportunity, and they believe in freedom. They believe in all the things that America, stands for, like a city on a hill, that they look at, the old pictures of Ellis Island or that Statue of Liberty, and that's what it stands for, are these ideals. So that's where he sees the split. Now, what I think he misses in this argument are two things. First of all, he seems to shoulder this entire concept on the Groypers because it's very easy to point out the fact that they're incredibly anti-Semitic and then be like, this is bad people. You guys, it's your entire argument's washed because this one people group that are terrible people believe in it. And they believe in it to such a degree that it's a little nuts, that they will literally discriminate and treat anyone that doesn't fall within this category like garbage. That's wrong. That's pretty easily identifiable by anyone that has basic common sense and a brain that functions. And then you have the split where it's like, well, anyone that has these ideals, right? And he kind of elevates them to like it's everyone that's not a Groyper. You're not anti-Semitic if you believe in this. You're actually a much better person than this terrible people group if you believe in the American ideal principle. Where I think there is a huge problem with looking at it this way is that I know plenty of people that came here decades ago on visas that, said they wanted a better life, who have not integrated into American society, who could not tell you a founding father, who could not recite the Pledge of Allegiance, who don't speak English. And so I think what we're missing is desire for assimilation. And you cannot deny the fact that America has American culture. Like, we have culture. We have baseball games and hot dogs and 4th of July fireworks. We have apple pie. We have Main Street. We have parades. We have strong military. Like, we're the FAFO, and that you can talk about it, you can look at it, but to deny its existence as an ideology, that's wrong, because you have to want to be a part of it. I mean, I'm a daughter of the American Revolution. Both sides of my family have been here since the 1500s, way before the colonies, and ever revolted. And they actually fought on both sides of the Civil War. They're fighting each other. So it's a miracle that I'm alive right now. And I have that heritage, that American identity where I know what my family's been through. My family were reverends and cowboys and guys that worked in machine shops and blue collar and white collar. And I feel so deeply proud of that heritage. However, I have friends whose parents came here 20 years ago who love America just as much as I do, who have assimilated to the culture, who have not only absorbed and striven to really have that American identity become a part of them and proudly, learn their history and speak perfect English and celebrate the 4th of July. And so it's not just about them, coming with ideals that are empty and just empty words, but they also truly make sure to integrate themselves into that heritage identity concept. So I think that we're missing the middle ground.
Yeah, I mean, and I think ultimately we are on the middle ground. I mean, I think these are more like ideological questions, more so than they are like actually real questions, because it's true. It's like, what does it really matter, at the end of the day? And it's an ambiguous thing. It's like, okay, I think I am way more American than Vivek, and you are too. I think we are both way more fucking American than him.
I mean, I don't like.
But again, like, dude, I've read his book, and this is how I know his book. He talks the entire fucking time about how Venakanjeri or whatever the fuck in India is his true home, and that's where he feels most at home, and blah 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 blah. So it's like, okay, if you have that, then you are less American because you're saying that your real home is India. As somebody should ask Vivek that question. Well, if you could nuke India or America, which would it be? And I think probably deep down, he would nuke America also, like
really?
Ben Shapiro. Yeah, I think he would. I think deep down, he is an Indian. He's not an American, really. He's kind of a pretend American. Now, if you were to see Vivek in 7 generations from now, that would be a different question because those people have no association with India at all. I mean, they're going to be so far gone. And I mean, that's what we are. That's what my family is, right? I mean, it's like we don't have England. Like we don't have any. It's because it's been how many generations? I mean, what is it since like 1600s? Yeah. I don't know how many generations that is. But like the idea that I would be English is insane. But Vivek is so close in time. So that's the real answer. It's kind of a temporal thing. But I think the reason that the question is being asked is because it's like, what is this country? What really are our values? What are the values of America? If you have somebody come here and Vivek's saying, here, let me read actually the beginning of his thing because it's a good way that he tees it up. And it's sort of infuriating. I mean, I think actually he just quit Twitter. And I want to say I had a
like an idiot because he made himself look stupid.
Wait, so why did it say that? Explain why.
The tweet he did, it was about the visas. And he said the thing about, it was about this. He tweeted and everyone came after him. So he quit.
Yeah, well, so I had actually gone after him long ago in a super viral tweet that I think he responded to actually.
Shocker, Isaac. Shocker.
And it was about this exact issue because he had said something like, America is not a people, America is an idea, and blah, 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 blah. Yeah. And it's like, okay, that's real fucking convenient for you, Vivek.
Well, my problem
like Vivek, Mr. Vivek, who can fucking go back to his home country anytime you want, and you're a big star and blah, blah, blah. But we don't have that. There's no home country for us. This is the fucking home country, man. And so it's not just like, oh, we're a nation of ideas. There's no such thing as being like blood American, but it's like, okay, if I'm not blood American, what am I?
Yeah.
And actually his viewpoint is going to give birth to more white identitarianism because then people are going to answer that question of, okay, well, what are you? I'm white. And they're going to say, I'm more white than I am anything else. And so it's like his view is just fucking wrong. But anyway, so he says in this thing, he starts his New York Times piece by saying, There are two competing visions now emerging on the American right, and they are incompatible. One vision of American identity is based on lineage, blood, and soil. Inherited attributes matter most. The purest form of an American is so-called heritage American, one whose ancestry traces back to the founding of the United States or earlier. And then he says the alternative, in my view, correct version of American identity is based on ideals. Americanism isn't a scalar quality, I don't know what that word means, that varies based on your ancestry. Oh, scalar is in more or less. That varies based on your ancestry. It's binary. Either you're American or you're not. You are an American if you believe in the rule of law and freedom and conscience and freedom of expression and colorblind meritocracy and the U.S. Constitution, the American dream, if you are a citizen who swears exclusive allegiance to our nation. Like, fuck that, man. That's just such fucking bullshit. It's like, okay, so some fucking Somalian who comes here and signs a piece of paper.
Look at Ilhan Omar.
That's not a fucking American. Yo, because you signed a paper. That doesn't make you an American.
Ilhan Omar is in our Congress. She's, I mean, look at what's happened in Minnesota. We don't even need to get into that, how insane that is. But they literally changed the state flag to look like the Somalian flag, have pledged their allegiance to Somalia. And we single-handedly, as American taxpayers, have been funding all of their GDP as a country by illegally funneled, taxpayer dollars.
Yeah, literally like the entire GDP.
So I'm sorry.
The entire country.
Like, yeah, she's less American than me. My family fought in every single war since the revolution.
All right.
My soil, my blood, my DNA is in this land all over the place. But and the thing is with this argument, what it does is it pushes people like me, or like, quote unquote, like people that who have this kind of background, who wouldn't be super anti the other side. It pushes us deeper into that groiperism kind of mentality, like you said, because it's offensive that discounts the hundreds of years that my ancestors have been fighting to keep America great and to make America great.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Oh, you just show up and sign a paper and now you're
it's like, I freaking
just as American. Like, no, you're not.
Yeah, no, you're
and
not.
It's also very fucking convenient. It's just like, oh, you come here and you don't want to have to, pay your dues. So you're just saying, I'm just as American as you now because I say so. It's no, man, you're not.
The thing that really bothers me about his argument is his attack on Americans, heritage Americans, and what he really means is blue collar, white trash Americans. And he's criticizing their work ethic, specifically their work ethic. In the article later, you can see he goes after the American idealization and worshiping of prom queens and homecoming kings over like the National Merit Scholar and over the kid that has like the tiger mom who, plays piano and is a mathlete or something.
Oh, right. Yeah, he had that whole thing.
Like he literally goes on with this, right?
And it's so ridiculous.
That's where he misses the mark of what America truly is. Because let me give you a little insight. My grandparents were raised in the backwoods of Ohio, his home state.
We're his home state, right? You're a Vivek.
And literally, like, you remember all the Haitians that were getting dumped off in Springfield, Ohio, the little tiny town that is literally no one knows? That's where my family's from. Right? It is literally like a few streets. Everyone's related to each other. And it is one of the most impoverished towns, which is why they're pumping the Haitians in, because the little industry that was there is gone, right? It's dust. Everyone lives in poverty. My grandparents were raised in abject poverty. And what happened? My grandfather, he was the youngest of 7. His dad left when he was 14. My grandfather started street sweeping, like literally sweeping streets at 6 years old. He worked as a milkman. He was an apprentice in a tool and die shop. He had no money. He worked his butt off, even though he wasn't smart, quote unquote. He didn't have, they just let him graduate high school because they didn't want him around anymore. They didn't like the family. They're from the wrong side of the tracks. So they just graduated him, even though he could, he says to this day, he's 87 and he says, I still can't read. He can read, but he's great at math. He can do any math in his brain that you could possibly imagine, but he's not ever going to be a really great reader or writer. Despite that, in fact, in spite of it, he worked really hard as a very poor American from blue collar Hickville, Ohio. And he traveled to Arizona with my grandmother when they got married, with my mom in tow when she was like little. He worked for Motorola. He worked delivering milk. He worked all these odd jobs until he was given an opportunity. And he says there's no such thing as luck. Luck is when preparation meets opportunity, right? And that is the American ideal. That is an American that understands sweat and blood and toil and what it is to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. I mean, he came to Arizona. He founded a company. It became one of the number one plastics injection mold injections companies, tool and die companies in the world. He invented, when you have like a milk carton, twisty top on the side, and you pull the ring. Pulling the ring was his idea. He invented what later became the taillights. I mean, he contracted with the U.S. government. He could barely sign his name on most of the stuff and didn't know what a patent was, unfortunately. But the man was incredibly successful. He has lived a life all over the world. He is the one that afforded me my education and had given me the money to invest so that I could have a home, that I could be here talking to you, that I could have a computer and a mic. I'm pretty sure you bought me this microphone. And that is an American. That is the reality of Americans. So don't tell me that people are just lazy, because that's what Vivek is saying. We need to import all the Asians because they work harder than us, because they have a better work ethic than us, because we can't find any talented Americans. They're all lazy and fat and sitting on their couch eating Cheetos, watching Netflix. That's not true. That's a stereotype.
Yeah. So is America a white country?
Well, you're going to have to be more specific. What do you mean by white?
Is America a white country? Like, do you think that America is a traditionally white country?
I'm going to say what Charlie Kirk said when he was
sorry.
asked this exact question. Because Charlie Kirk was asked this question, and you know what his answer was?
What?
America is a Protestant country. I agree with
Probably
that statement.
true. Yeah, that is
America
true.
is a Protestant country.
Yeah.
So
it is a white country, though. America is a white country. You know, it's like this is like one of these fucking things. It's like people talk themselves out of it, and they try to get out of it, and it makes them uncomfortable to answer and all that shit. But at the end of the day, it's a fucking white country. You know,
and if it wasn't,
it is a white country. That's what it is.
And if it wasn't a white country, then there would never have been a campaign for the last 20 years that white people should have less babies and that we need to import more foreigners. There would never have been every possible feminist BS campaign and woke libtard campaign saying, white people stop procreating, women get on the pill, men become beta soy boy incels.
Well, right, but where do you think that campaign came from? Because the Groypers would say that campaign came from the Jews. They would say Jews did that.
Yeah, no.
Because Jews are like, oh, well, they want to undermine the host population and destroy it so that they can have more power. Do you think that's
the most
any truth to
insane
that?
argument? No, I think it's one of the most insane arguments I've ever heard. You don't know where that argument came from? It came from the people that experimented with population control 30 years ago, 50 years ago, and knew what it did to their country. And they were like, oh, we really screwed ourselves. We need to fix it. And that would be China. That's where this comes from.
Wait. So you really think that the Chinese are the ones saying that white people need to do you think that's really from China?
I think there is a very long game that's been played here. You go back to the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, when they were doing the female infanticide, and then they flipped their population with the one-child policy, where all of a sudden they had no women, they couldn't procreate. Well, because China thinks in dynasties, thinks in 1,000-year eras, and not in the next election cycle every 2 years, they plan stuff. That's why we have the TikTok problem. That's why we have now, let's look at all the major problems we're facing as Americans. Let's look at fentanyl, number one killer of adults 18 through 45. And the statistic you're not hearing is it's also the number one killer of kids 13 to 18. Okay, where does that come from? It comes from China. We are locking up the southern border. They're working with the cartels. So now they're pumping it through the northern border and through the marine border because Gavin Newsom sold them all the ports in California because that was really smart. They were also controlling the Panama Canal. And there's like a little reason why we also have Maduro. It's not just oil. It's the fact that China and Russia were controlling Venezuela and working with Maduro. Same reason why China has bought up most of the Caribbean, including the Bahamas, including Barbados, is building little military bases there. This is a problem. They're pumping in drugs and people, right? So then what's our other major issue? Okay, well, besides the drugs and besides the fact that people are coming across our border illegally, it's the ideological shift. That's what's killing us. It's feminism. It's the concept that women should be sterile, that you can have babies or relationships with robots. What is communism based on? I mean, you have to remember China is still it's still a communist country, right? The number one rule of communism after there is no God and to replace God is that you need to destroy and dismantle the family unit, and that is how you control things. Our family unit.
Yeah, I think, but is that coming? That's not coming from China. China is putting pressure on that wedge for sure.
Sure.
But China isn't even communist. China, as I've said many times recently, China is a fascist nation. They're not communists at all. They're not communist almost in any way at all. They call themselves communist, but they're not communists. They're fascists. They're a fascist nation in every way. They have capitalist markets that benefit them. They control it very well for the sake of the nation. And that's why they're so successful, frankly, because they are a massive nation in today's world that manages to actually care about their people first and foremost, which is very hard to do in global liberalism because global liberalism sort of disempowers the fascist instinct that nations have. And it says, no, you can't do that. You need to prioritize the global economy. You need to prioritize the poor, brown, huddled masses of Africa or of India or whatever. You need to let those people in and give them jobs, and you need to let them assimilate because their lives back in wherever they live are so terrible and they're being killed by local despots, and that's the whole thing of modern liberalism, which is actually a guise for cheap labor. But China says, no, we're not fucking playing that game. We care about our people first. And we do have social services and yada, 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 but
agree with
we're
that.
a capitalist economy. We're a totally capitalist economy.
I used to live in China. All right. I lived in China, really? And let me tell you, I lived in Hong Kong. And
for how long?
I did a college semester there, and most of my friends are Chinese, and one of my best friends is Taiwanese. And
you can kind of say lived. I sometimes say lived when I did abroad.
I also spent a lot of time there as a kid. Like my grandparents were some of the first people that did those old shopping trips when they first really opened up to Westerners. So I got to spend a summer there after 8th grade with my grandparents, and that I sailed down the Yangtze before they flooded the Three Gorges. But I got to see China before, the invention of the smartphone camera, right? Before Instagram, before it became all about aesthetics. And let me tell you, they do not care about their people. You can't look at the videos that were being posted from the mainland China during COVID and see how they locked people to die alone in their apartments, because the Chinese, something you learn about living
they're very authoritarian, right? Yeah.
It's not even that. It's that they do not see people as having a soul. They do not see people as having, any kind of spirit or significance, because you're not created in the image of God. You're not something special. You are a meat popsicle. You are utilitarian. You are there for a purpose. And China will decide if that purpose is to become a billionaire and be useful in their tech or economy, or to be a sweatshop worker. And most of the time it's the latter. That's the reality. There's a reason.
Yeah, but that system is taking over the world and will take over the world. And liberalism right now is dying of its own bullshit because we're too extreme. We shouldn't. We don't have what the founding fathers of America thought should be democracy. We have mega democracy. We have democracy so that every single fucking person votes, which is fucking retarded. If you really think about that, think about how completely ridiculous that every single person votes on every single little thing.
How
There
would
could
you
not
do
be a
it?
dumber idea.
How would you do it?
I mean, look, there's a million different ways. There's a million different restrictions, but there should just be like, the simplest way probably in today's world is a test. Give people a fucking test. Doesn't even have to be IQ. It should just be like, do you have any fucking clue about anything? Like, do you know even a little bit about the things that you're voting on? Because 90% of people, I would imagine, don't.
Well, you
And
don't.
like
You also don't
maybe
need
not
to
90,
be
maybe not 90.
American.
Let's say 75% of people have no idea. You're being driven by people, first of all, who don't even fucking live here. They came here 5 seconds ago, like the Vivek thing. Your country is being dictated by people who like signed a paper saying they're American last week. Like, that's fucking ridiculous. Those people should not have a vote. And you just look, if you want to enrich your society, if you want your society to be successful, you have to have some kind of intelligence on the part of the leadership decisions. And if the dumbest people in America are making your decisions, that's just a very bad system, isn't it?
I would agree, and there's a reason for that though. It wasn't. I really think if you would take a time machine and go back in time and talk to the founding fathers, right? They would be so confused as to the level of literacy and basic education for the people living within our borders. Because back then, you have to remember that every single person, didn't matter if you were a bootblack, a baker, or someone in parliament or whatever, you knew two pieces of literature almost by heart, and that was
Right.
the King James Bible and the works of Shakespeare.
Sure.
So you had a foundation that inherently informed you as to goodness, truth, beauty, virtue, basic common sense, good and evil, and you knew your history because it was taught. I mean, there was that thing that went viral not too long ago that kind of resurfaces every few years on Instagram, looking at the basic. It was like a basic requirements of a school kid in the 1800s, early 1900s.
Yeah, right. And it was like really like, yeah.
It was stuff that grad school students don't know now.
Now, no. Yeah.
They took for granted that we wouldn't become like, the Morlocks or whatever from the time machine, like burned all the books and they become, these mindless things that they can't even comprehend. They're just sacrificing themselves to the other creatures. That's what's happened. And so it's not like it was a lack of foresight. I think they would be just completely shocked that this is what we've devolved into as.
Yeah, definitely. And when they would be like, are you kidding me? These people are not meant to vote. I mean, did you see also like in America, like, have you ever seen the chart of the languages that the presidents have spoken?
No.
It's like over the years it was like 5, although I think they said maybe George Washington like couldn't read or something. But
he could read. He was a cartographer.
Wasn't it? What was his thing though? He had somewhere. But like all of those guys spoke like 4 or 5 languages. It was like Latin, French, Spanish, or probably not even Spanish. It was like Latin, French, German.
Yeah.
And
French.
Now it's just like one language. It's a crazy chart because it's like literally like goes from 5 down to 1. And I just think that that's bad, man. It's like, it's not, I'm not many people on the right are these types who are like human, what do they call it? Fucking elite human capital types who are like the natural aristocracy has to rise out of the people who have a certain level of IQ, and that's who should control the country because they have a high IQ. I don't fucking believe that. IQ is just a stupid test.
That's not the Edmund Burke's definition of natural aristocracy. I mean, you can go back and read The Conservative Mind by Russell Kirk. That's straying away from true natural aristocracy.
What does he say, the natural aristocracy?
Well, it's not just about like your inherent IQ, right? Because you could be taller, shorter, richer, poorer, smarter, dumber, but it's also how you apply it. Like some people are more motivated than others. Some people, I mean, I could have a sister. I mean, I have a sister, but I could have an imaginary sister. We're given, and it's not too dissimilar from like a cousin I have, where given the exact same chance in life to do anything, same schools, same opportunity, same amount of money, same age, same demographics, same everything. And one becomes very successful and one does not because of life choices.
Totally. Again, I'm a populist. I am fundamentally a fucking populist, right? So like, I'm not an elitist at all. I think elites are usually
liberal, psychopaths.
Pretty disappointing, you know? And I've been around many of them. And so they're usually not super, I mean, look, some of them completely deserve it and are really, breeding does matter. You know, your breeding absolutely fucking matters. And
look at Somalians. Their IQ
right,
is like
exactly,
68 or 86.
I'm not saying that it's completely irrelevant, but I am a populist in the sense that I do think that the will of the people and the will of popularity is a much better indicator of quality than I went to X school or that I got an X score on my stupid gay test. That's like, who cares about this test? I think, and the reason for that is, again, I think that like what indicates success is success, not a test that says I should be successful, right? Like that's, I prefer the actual success. That's why I'm a populist. And like, yeah, like I think musically, right? Like pop music fucking sucks because it's manipulative, but good music is usually popular also. So it's like, you know, like rap music actually is fucking great. And rap music grew because it deserved to grow, not because it like was fake, right?
Right.
So in any case, I land on the side of populism. But that doesn't fucking mean that every single person is worthwhile in voting. Populism means that, you know, popularity matters, but there should be some. We're just so extreme. Like America is the Western world is so extreme. We have this like, oh, it's almost like communism. Like we have this belief that every person, if you just show up to a country, you should then have a say in the destiny of that country. That's insane. That's completely ridiculous. There should be some skin in the game. You should have to actually prove that you deserve to be there or that you deserve to like make these decisions. Whereas right now, it's nobody's illegal. And even the right, I mean, even on the traditional conservative right, there's no blood and soil at all. And that's kind of what Vivek is saying. And I just feel like that is an untenable view of America. Now that there's so many foreigners here, like there does need to be a separating between heritage Americans and just fucking got here 5 seconds ago Americans. You know, like there's a difference.
I agree. So first of all, too, something you said earlier, the indicator of success isn't IQ. It isn't talent. It isn't whatever. Angela Duckworth wrote a book about this like 2 years ago. It's grit. And I think grit is inherently an American attribute and trait. And I think that, you know, there's very few countries that can say they have as much grit as an American. You think of John Wayne, you think of all the things we've done coming from one side of the country to the other and taming the wild frontier and fighting off Indians and fighting wars and sticking it out with like our jaw clenched. That's an American trait. And I think that's what makes it successful. But, you know, really what you're talking about is an issue of lowering standards. We lowered education standards. We lowered again, everyone used to speak Latin. Everyone used to be very well educated. We lowered standards of what it is to become a citizen. You can seek asylum. You can cross the border. You don't have to read. You don't have to. I mean, that's why I'm really happy that President Trump is going to redo the citizen test where you have to have, I mean, I guess it's gotten really dumbed down under the Democrats. Shocker. And so now he's re-upping it to what it was probably 20, 30 years ago. I don't know, to something a little more stringent, a little more you actually have to study and know your shit. They're not just going to hand out IDs like in Gavin Newsom land. And so we're really, somewhere along the line, someone said, and this is against American exceptionalism, It said, here's the bar. That's not fair. We need to be egalitarian. We need to hand out participation trophies. It's not fair. That's not nice. Fuck being nice. Nice is killing us. Nice is making us stupid. Nice is destroying our country. Nice is like everybody can come in the house and it's okay that you guys are burning the house down and paint walls and stealing our food and money. We're just going to be happy and smile about it. That's stupid. And that's what's killing us. And there's nothing wrong with taking pride in your identity as a citizen with national pride. I mean, the issue is that phrase got so associated with like the Nazis and, you know, the skinheads and all the crazy people that are like the Nick Fuentes groypers, that it destroyed something good and twisted something that traditionally, one thing that was like, you know, as quintessential American as the flag, as 4th of July, and it made it a dirty word. And I hate that.
Yeah. I think that's true. So then where do you see the right going? Because this is clearly an argument. Vivek, what do you think is going to happen with Vivek, et cetera? You know, like where does this go from here? As you are looking at, I mean, what I like about talking to you is you have a pretty good post or a good pulse on the sort of like mainstream right. So going forward after Trump, who's pretty, you know, Trump's definitely not identitarian, right? Because he's not really identitarian. I mean, like he is a little bit. Everybody called him racist for so long, but he really actually isn't. Like I'd say Vance is probably more identitarian than Trump, actually. But Trump is sort of more of a typical 90s like white guy, you know? He's going to go away now, and that whole way of being is going to die, or not die, but is going to end. So what's going to happen to the right? What's going to happen to the mainstream right? Will there be this concept of heritage American, is that going to become a part of the right?
I think that looking at what's happened to Vivek, right? Looking at how he's been sort of pushed out and mobbed, I mean, and is now off social media because he's embarrassed himself. That's telling. I think that there's also a statistic, I think it was 78 or 79% of Americans that are actually pro-Israel, despite all the, I mean, and not to the extent of not America first, but, you know, we hear all the crazy groyperism split. The point in that statistic is that the fissure within the right, the tear that we're talking about, is not as deep or as wide as the media would like us to believe. I think liberal media and liberals, generally Democrats, they've seen a tender spot. I think of it like Stranger Things.
It's a wedge. It's a wedge. It's an
like
obvious
in Stranger
wedge,
Things, where they see that little hole to the upside down, and then they just gotta like they rip it open and make it a portal. That's what they're trying to do, because Isaac, welcome to the midterms. I mean, this is 2026. We have an election year. And the scariest thing for them would be if we won Congress again and we maintained control for the next 2 years and actually got shit done. Now, looking at someone like J.D. Vance, I mean, J.D. Vance's wife is not traditionally a white American woman. It would be, I think, the first non-white American woman, except for Michelle Obama, who, you know, African American, Black, who was in the White House, which is very interesting. That being said, J.D. Vance is a very much, you know, hillbilly elegy American dude. And so I think that despite all the appearances, the future of the right is not going, I think we're really going to try to put the Viveks and the Nick Fuenteses kind of off to the side and try to pivot focus from them. I think we're going to have problems with guys like Brannon, who are really engaging for the younger generation. The rallying around the personality of someone like Brannon, that could be dangerous down the road. My hope is that we have more of a Marco Rubio kind of mentality, right? Marco, Cuban, proud Cuban. Family came here,
right?
But he is America frickin' first all day long. I mean, that guy is as American as they come. He will. You want to talk about pushing a button? He'll push it for everybody else before he ever pushes it for America. And that's the kind of mentality and leadership that I think we need on the right. And that's where our biggest and best hope. And the work he's doing now and the work he hopefully will continue to do throughout the rest of this administration, I think that's going to be pivotal in how the rest of the right kind of falls in line and really sees that you can talk a good game, but how well do you throw?
Yeah, I mean, you're right about Rubio. That does seem to be like the answer, kind of, because Rubio, like the Cubans are the perfect answer because like they're not going back to fucking Cuba.
No.
You know, like to answer that question of like between Cuba and America, where Jews for Israel and Indians for India would like struggle. No Cuban would save Cuba. They're like, fuck Cuba.
Like, nuke
fucking Cuba. I don't care. You know, like they're perfectly happy in Miami. Like they don't need, they're not going back to Cuba for any reason. So they truly are Americans.
And you look
at
the voting bloc. Look at how they vote. Cuban Americans and other, similar demographics. They vote as Republican as they come. They love America. They wave American flags over the Cuban flags. They love their Cuban food and their culture, but they are frickin' American down to their bones because they know identity-wise and ideal-wise what it is to be an American, and that is who they are, and that is who they have chosen to become. Because identity that can be gifted, right? It's not, can't pass it down. Can't be inherited. That's a learned trait, right? I mean, you could be born in a box and not, completely black box. You don't know anything outside of that world. You have to learn. And so the thing about the Cuban American population is that they appreciate, there's an appreciation. There's not like the Somalians coming here taking advantage. They don't see us as a piggy bank. They see us as hope, as the city on the hill that our founding fathers would like. And guys like Marco Rubio and that whole culture identity-wise and ideologically, they walk the line between understanding what it takes to make America great and what it means to be the superpower of the world, and also how to preserve and protect who we are and appreciate what we have to offer.
Yeah, no, I think that's basically right. I mean, it's a hard question for a reason. It's a wedge for a reason. That's why I always say like about wedges in general. People are always fighting. Like I hate when Zionist people say, "Oh, but he's getting paid by Qatar." It's like, so that doesn't change anything. It's like a wedge is a wedge, right? Or when somebody says China is behind this. It doesn't matter if China is behind it. A wedge is a wedge. A wedge is a wedge for a reason. It's not, they're not making it up. The wedge is there. They just happen to be like hammering on the fucking wedge, right? So this is going to be a wedge. What?
So the question is, what are you going to do back?
Right.
How do we then lever the wedge?
Right. Well, yeah. And how do you actually evaluate the wedge and say, okay, what's really the way to deal with this? How do you get past this? I mean, I think that dude, when I go back and look at my genetics, right, it says American settler on there. So it's not like you can't be. Yeah. It's not that you can't be genetically American. You can be genetically American. Like, and that shit like forms pretty fast. So it's not true that you can't be genetically American, Vivek. You can be genetically American. Yeah. I'm sure that like American blacks also certainly have. It's not like I guarantee you, American blacks, their DNA is different than just Bantu African today. Yeah. Like, I'm sure you can tell. So you can definitely be genetically American. It's just, I think it takes time. And I do think these motherfuckers coming here need to acknowledge it's a white country. This is a white country created by white people. It has white values. It has white shit in it. It is a white fucking place. Celebrate Christmas. Santa is white. Stop trying to fucking change that. Just, like it is, don't try to fucking change it. It doesn't, nobody said America has to shape to accommodate your fucking identity. Your identity is legal here. That's the point of America. You can practice your identity in any way that you want. That's fine. But it doesn't mean America has to be what you want.
It doesn't mean we listen to the imam call of the mosque.
Right. Yeah, fuck that, man. And well, I mean, actually, that's going to be wait till that fucking becomes more of a problem, because actually it does.
Already a huge problem.
Unfortunately, it does mean that, because American freedom of religion actually does mean
but not when it infringes on my ears. That's my freedom too.
not when it goes free speech, but not when it goes in my ears. No.
I don't want to hear that. No, here's and this is why Charlie.
Yeah, that's gonna suck. Oh my God, that's why we got to get a hold of this. We just got to close the borders right now, because that can't fucking happen. If I wake up and hear that shit, that's the fucking end of America. And it's like the sad thing is, like, it is.
Look at New York.
Fucking,
look at Minneapolis.
It's in defense. Like, you can't fight that constitutionally, because technically they're allowed to do that. You know, I mean, it's fucking horrible.
That's a different thing where I disagree. I think there is a legal fight against it for various reasons, but that's why. I mean, that's a whole nother. We can get into that. I think you can, because, well, I mean, first of all, sound ordinances on a very basic level, but yeah. So the reason why Charlie, I think, was so insistent on answering that it was a Protestant nation is because, yeah, Judeo-Christian principles and ideals are what built America, right? There's a reason why our Constitution is worded the way in which it is. There's a reason why, you know, the Bill of Rights and our amendments, and everyone was so intentional in every single word used in every one of our founding documents. I love the comparison of the photo, I think I sent it to you recently, of on Instagram, where it's like, while my ancestors were building this, and it's like Gothic cathedrals and palaces and, you know, the Parthenon or whatever, like in 2025, and it shows like a picture of, you know, Africa or whatever, and it's still like a hut made out of trash. That's the difference, where there is, like, you can either be a part of the culture that, you know, invented that was where Shakespeare came from, that did write the King James Bible, that has truly built and tamed and created Western civilization. I mean, there's a reason why Harvard is no longer teaching Western Civ, because it points to this, and it so clearly paints the picture of the reality that white culture and being a white country is very real. We might call it white, but really it's Protestant, really it's Judeo-Christian. And that historically is where all the goods come from. I mean, you can go as far back as the Roman Empire. It's so clear. And to put that on the table is really unpopular. It's really uncool. You'll get called racist. You'll get called whatever other stupid name they're going to come up with. You'll get called a fascist. I get called Nazi or whatever all the time, and because I like deporting people. And but you cannot fight against history, culture, art. I mean, if they were so good at doing stuff, if America didn't have a white culture, a Protestant culture, then why does Africa still deal with the same shit they've been dealing with for hundreds of years?
Well, but so the counter argument there, and the counter argument is that it's like an immune system, right? Like your immune system, the immune system of Africa. If you're a white person in today's world and you show up in Africa and try and do shit, you're gonna get like kicked out of there pretty quick, probably. Right? Maybe that was different in earlier times, but the big hypocrisy here is that Western liberalism, as created by Protestant white people, is actually super good at controlling that immune system reaction, right? Like, we're really good at controlling people so that you don't just shoot the foreigner in the face the second they show up at your door, right? Or you don't just shoot the fucking other...
We have law and order.
Yeah, you don't just kill the different religion person because they have a different religion. You actually, it's okay, you can live over here, we live over here, it's tolerance, we're very tolerant, we're not killing each other.
I hate that word.
And actually, America, that's kind of what it's based on. The reason why it was so successful is because it has this accommodation for not having those really intense natural immune reactions. And like a person's body, this is like getting pretty fucking abstract, but this is how I think about it. Like a person's body, an immune reaction can kill you, right? It's like a allergy, a really bad allergy. That, and actually a lot of different fucking things that kill you are your body just killing you, right? Like by accident because
Cancer.
it's freaking out about something else, right? I mean, cancer's a little different, but and actually like controlling your immune system reaction is good because you're not constantly freaking out. But that only works up to a point. And then it's like, okay, now you lost, then you have AIDS, right? If you lose your immune system entirely, then not only you're not dying of allergies, then you have no defense at all. Yeah. Then the bad thing comes in. And
I love how we went straight from allergies to AIDS.
Well, it's kind of a spectrum between allergies and AIDS, right? And like AIDS is the Somalians. Or no, they're not the Somalians, but us not being able to fucking be like, okay, you do not belong here. You know, like us not being able to say that leads to fucking AIDS because then you have these people come in.
We need a booster shot.
Well, we need something because it's like, you know, you have to have a certain level of cultural, you know, for lack of a better word, racism or chauvinism, whatever, to say, no, some fucking weirdo who comes here and is an idiot and is obviously defrauding me, they do not get the benefit of the doubt. In fact, they get the opposite of the benefit of the doubt. They get investigated 10 times harder. And we treat them 10 times worse because they're a fucking foreigner. This is the problem. This is the whole issue that America is facing today. It's that our ability to accommodate difference really was the reason we won, kind of, right? Like, because we were just... You know,
it was, well, I mean, I don't know if I totally agree with that because you look at back what the pilgrims and the settlers and all the people that came to America that were fighting against was oppression. It wasn't, I think it's been flipped about tolerance. There's a difference between tolerance and oppression. And there's also a very distinct difference between, you know, freedom and like, what's the word? Just being like it's that toxic empathy that a lot of people are now talking about, where me having freedom of religion is not the same as me having toxic empathy to allow rapist Venezuelans in. Like to extend your really hilarious autoimmune metaphor. Think about the most basic level of hygiene is what? Washing your hands. Okay, that's why it's posted in every restaurant, like all employees, all must wash their hands before returning to work. You wash your hands after you go to the bathroom. It's the number one most basic entry level, you know, point of not getting sick and not spreading disease, right? Mm-hmm. Drinking water. That's why so many people are, you know, dying of disease and disgusting things in like the Ganges in India because they're melting or burying bodies in the river. The animals are in the river. They're using the river to defecate in, do their laundry, and also drink the water. Like, there's a reason why people die all the time there. Now, that kind of basic entry level wash your hands point should be, to your point, like, don't let people who hate America, who don't speak English, who have no fucking clue what we are, into the country. Let's a little barrier. Just a very basic barrier.
Yeah, basic like common sense, basic. Right? It's like common sense, like common. Basic shit. Yeah. I agree. And it's sorry.
But then you step up, right? It's like, okay, well, I also don't want to get polio or the measles. So I'm just really gonna run through this. Yeah. I'm really gonna run with this metaphor, dude. Where if I don't want polio or the measles or AIDS, then I need a vaccination. I need inoculation from that. I need, you know, to make sure that I'm protected. So what do? I make sure that everyone is properly educated, that people know the history. I make sure that people speak English. I make sure that people understand they can't defraud the system because it looks easy. It's teaching, you know, this is what I always go back to C.S. Lewis and The Abolition of Man. And if people have not read The Abolition of Man, then they need to go read it immediately. And then they need to, right after, read C.S. Lewis's follow-up, his fictional space trilogy, because the last book in that Hideous Strength, is literally the worlds we're living in. And Lewis said back in the 50s, 60s, he saw this little green book that was being passed around in the education system. And he wrote The Abolition of Man as a response to it, because really it was the introduction of relativism, right? And it was the introduction of, well, my opinion, your opinion, and this toxic empathy, tolerance BS as we know it, that was not the original intention of the founders or of the white culture or Protestant culture, right? And he said, if you guys don't stop this, basically, we are going to create children who don't understand what virtue is. And if you create men and women without virtue, and then you expect them to continue to behave with virtue, because that's what civilized people do, you are going to be laughed at. I mean, John Adams said that our government was created for a moral and religious people that inherently had that idea of morality and that ordering that you get from being Protestant and white and knowing what the Bible is or knowing what the Torah is. And so, like, if you want my opinion, my personal TMB take on this, like, people need to know the Bible, to know the God of the Bible. And I'm talking about the same one we share, Hebrew Bible, Christian Bible, say, you know, first half, second half, doesn't matter. To have that basic fundamental, even ideologically, even if you don't believe in God, the 10 Commandments are a pretty straight, clear-cut basis for all of the law and order that we have in our world. There's a reason why people come here from the Middle East who believe in the Quran, where Muhammad, married and raped, 8-year-old, 6-year-old, whatever it was, 9-year-old. And they come here and they're raping American women that are out for jogs and bashing their skulls in when they don't want to be raped. And when you get these guys on film and translate what they're saying, because they don't speak fucking English, they're saying, oh, well, I wanted to do it. And like, she's nothing. That's like an animal. That is a belief system problem. And that is a man that has no virtue, that couldn't even comprehend something like courage. And courage is the basis for all the other virtues, that has no prudence, self-discipline. The list goes on. And that is what I think white culture really is. I think it's a culture of virtue.
I think that's probably, is that white culture? I mean, I think that's kind of true. I mean, I think that
American culture, Protestant culture,
morality. I think it is. I think that's true. I mean, probably people would call you like super racist to say that, but I don't think you're. I mean, I don't think you're racist to say that. I think
I'm not.
Yeah, I think we're just getting to ahead of all of these things, and we're reaching this point of like, what is going to be Americanism going forward? Is it going to be, because for when we grew up, it really was all this like high-minded talk about the ideals and the Constitution and anybody can be American and the American dream is for everybody. And the Emma Lazarus poem, give me your tired and your poor, your huddled masses, which is not but that's not the Constitution, right? And so it's like, I think we've just reached the end of that line. And I think that got taken advantage of way too much. And bad actors and people who didn't understand it and naive people, they started thinking that it was like America's job to make everyone equal. And that was never the point. And I think that now, really, in order to save it, you do gotta be a little racist. I think that like America needs to be like 10% more racist, you know, and just be like, no, this is a white place, and it's white values, and that, like, you know, get with the fucking program. And if you're not down with that, then don't fucking come here, you know, because
the word white for Protestant, for Western civilization, for morality, because I mean, I have plenty of friends about all kinds of colors and creeds that are American as they come. And the thing is that because we've watched, instead of America being this mass equalizer, right, that it's been made into,
right,
what it really is, it's a boiling pot. It's a mass siphoner or whatever those things are called. That like when you're doing like an archaeological dig or powdering sugar on a cake, it sifts the wheat from the chaff, whatever that biblical verse is, where you either are going to make it and learn how to swim and you're going to become successful.
Right, but it's the opposite of that now. But now it's the fucking opposite of that. Now it's come here and get a bunch of free shit.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, the welfare state really makes it impossible, because then it's like, then it's, at least, okay, that's what I would say to Vivek. It's like, all right, if you want to make it so that, you can come here and it's total sink or swim, and if you sink and you can't get along, you'd fucking die, which was what it's like when the Irish came. People say, oh, but the Irish came. Yeah, the Irish didn't have fucking welfare,
They dealt with so much discrimination.
They didn't have like free shit, Civil Rights Act. You have to get a job, like you have to get anything you want. Like, that was not.
I've been trying to apply to these fellowships like the last few years, and it's actually fascinating. You should go. There's a website called ProFellow that lists fellowships, like every fellowship in America, every fellowship for an American. I can't tell you how few fellowships I'm even eligible. I mean, there are thousands of fellowships on this thing, right? And it's what a lot of people are getting like their PhD funding from, their graduate funding, their postdoctoral fellowship from. Like that's like the main database. I, as a white woman, as a white straight woman, actually, am so disqualified from almost every single door opening opportunity on that database because I'm an American citizen, first of all, ironically, because I'm a woman, because I'm white, and because I'm not queer. Because most of the ones that I would be interested in, I was like, oh my gosh, this is such an interesting fellowship. I would love to do this. This is really cool. Well, I have to be Black, trans, non-American
but
citizen.
Everybody knows this, man. I mean, this is Jacob Savage was just on, his piece.
Yeah.
The Lost Generation was all about this. I mean, everybody knows this shit now.
And not only that, but we're giving them the opportunities that born Americans should be getting that we're closed off from. We're giving them the scholarships. We're giving them the financial leg ups. We're giving them the startup money. We're giving them their schooling. We're paying for their housing. And then we have the gall to say that they work harder or are just as American as the guy that was born in Springfield, Ohio, who has nothing, who had no leg up, who had no money coming in, who had to work his ass off to even have the hope of a chance, who had to believe in the American dream. And I think that's the thing. We've lost sight of the American dream because we started handing it out for free.
Yeah. No, I think, and just, right, the Welfare and Civil Rights Act state has such a intense effect on all of this stuff. And it's also, right. Yeah. Anyway, all right. Well, the last few minutes here, tell us what are you working on? You since we last talked, you've been on Fox News a lot. You have a podcast. So what's going on with Tiffany?
Well, thanks for asking. Yeah, so I'm on Fox News at night. I'll actually be on next Friday, not this Friday, but next Friday, the 23rd, with Trace Gallagher. I've been on Fox and Friends First. I'm on GB News over in the UK occasionally. I'm on Real America's Voice and OANN. But all that is to say, I've started writing a book. So working on that, TBD on the details. The new show, it's just the Tiffany Marie Brannon show. And originally because my background is theology and divinity, because I went to divinity school, a lot of people don't know that. And so originally the concept was to make it more of a faith-based show. And this was well before Charlie's assassination. And I was like, but what kind of audience is there for that? And while I love it, what was ultimately we figured out is that it kind of really constricted me to only having people with the very like homogenous mentality and opinions, and really kind of I couldn't have a lot of people I want to have on. And let's be honest, Isaac, we both know I fucking love politics and I love culture, and I want to. So I'll be venturing a lot more into cultural aspects and the political aspects. And I'll still bring, you know, the TMB problems flair, but a little more elevated, a little more intentional, a lot more interviews, a lot more of not date. Like, I don't want to do news of the day where it's just, you know, burnt out. I want to look at the topics we're facing every day. Like, look at Iran, look at Venezuela, look at Zohran Mamdani, look at whoever. And then the goal of the show is to bring it back to the larger problems that we're facing, like identity or ideology. And so I'm going to be interviewing anyone and everyone. So if you guys have ideas, send them my way. I'm recording a lot the next few months. And then down the road, the show, once we get it polished, will be hopefully streaming on a TV near you. So that's a whole nother spiel.
Wow. Very cool. Okay, Tiffany, thank you so much. Great to see you, and stay in touch.
Thanks, Isaac. This is fun.
Bye.
Bye.